Look out, the captain's away.
The Rugby League Hour, brought to you by MicroBio Solutions Limited, makers of Effluix, the new way to clean up dairy effluent and wastewater while increasing the fertiliser value of your irrigation in one easy step. Visit microbio.co.nz for more.
Strong, powerful, try.
My name is Martin Devlin.
Yes, and the Mac is back. Tony Kemp in the house.
Round 7 of the NRL. Welcome to the Rugby League Hour, and a podcast is available of this program around about 5:30 tonight. The way it rolls, question time kicks it off. We will review the whole round, go up the wires. Our special guest this week is the Warriors CEO Cameron George. Head-to-head, the Effluix Cleanup Award. You don't know Jack, a brand new feature where Tony Kemp reckons that he's going to hot tip us and he gets it all wrong, and you round it up with your top 5 TK. All right, 6 quick questions to start with, as always. Was that just a blip for the Warriors, or is it something more serious?
I'd be worried about it.
Melbourne have won 5 games. Each win has been 8 points or less. Are they that good, or are they that lucky?
The benchmark.
Are the Dolphins a legitimate top 8 side, given what you've seen, or do you think they're going to do what they did last year and fall away from that top 8?
I'm going to reach for the skies here. I think they can make the 8.
The Eels never win in Darwin, so why the hell continue to take a game there?
I don't want to say this, Marty, but they used to be my favourite team when I was a kid. They are garbage.
Were you more impressed by the Sharks or less impressed by the Cowboys?
The Sharks. The Sharks putting 40 on the Cowboys. How good?
I ask this question every week. Are the Titans ever going to win a game?
Yes, eventually. But they were never going to win if Manly got out of second gear.
The Weekend Roundup.
Results then over the round, and it kicked off, of course, last Thursday. Storm getting up close, as I said, against the Roosters.
Jerome Hughes, too good.
Dragons thrashing the Warriors.
Well, who would have thought that?
Dolphins doing the same to the Eels, putting 40.
I'll tell you what, no Wayne Bennett. Maybe the future, we're having a look at it.
Panthers against Tigers, dreadful game.
Boring.
Sea Eagles just over your Titans.
How good can they be if they hit fifth gear?
Broncos looking good against the Raiders.
They're back.
Bulldogs thrashing your Knights.
Are they top 4?
And the Sharks, again, what a win over the Cowboys, putting 40 on them.
Man, form too early? Let's hope not.
Let's look at Melbourne then, because I want to start with a team that is top of the table. Them and the Sharks have got 5 wins. Again, 8 points or less in every single game, but they win and they continue to win. So what are you seeing about them compared to last year?
They're grinding it out. They're in it for long periods of the football game. Look, Big Nelson being back, Sifa Solomona, makes a big difference to that Melbourne side. But they continue to find ways to win football games. I thought Hughes was outstanding. Again, Munster. Their spine is, tingling, to say the least. But I just think this is the Melbourne side that we've sort of become accustomed to over the years. They just know how to get the job done.
Can we say the same thing about Penrith and Brisbane? Because the word I used was lurking. These 3 sides were undoubtedly so far ahead of everyone else last year, and they won again on the weekend, and they just, you get the feeling, don't you?
Well, Penrith just went through the motions. The Tigers
Didn't it feel like that?
Yeah, Tigers never really threatened them. It was a boring football game. But the Broncos, they went up that level. You know what I mean? Like the Broncos, the speed off the mark and the way that Ezra Mann and Reece Lightning out the back were playing. Just, it's honestly, that is the best type of football to watch when you're watching rugby league, is when those two are on fire. So I think you saw a little bit of confidence come out of the Broncos side. Every time that Penrith can win without Nathan Cleary, I just think they're letting people know, we'll wait till we get back to, our full contingent of players here. And you've got to remember, Marty, with Penrith, that's probably the biggest news to come out of Penrith, losing Fisher Harris. I'd say
How'd they keep that quiet,
years.
Tony? We're going to ask Cameron George about this. How did they keep that quiet? There's always a leak.
Well, I think it happened too quickly. I think, personally, there is always a leak, but I think they probably got asked on a Thursday, they had a meeting on a Friday, and then decision was made on Monday.
Straight away. Okay, we'll ask Cameron George exactly about that. In terms of you mentioned the Bulldogs before. In terms of their win, and I sat down to watch 2 games yesterday on the Sunday, and they were both blowouts, and it was a bit disappointing. But their Bulldogs side, we talked about their left edge again last week. You saw the Fox again. I mean, he's in try-scoring mood at the moment. I mean, Is this a kickstart for their season, do you honestly believe?
Well, the Fox is playing for his Blues jersey, isn't he? That's really what he's about. He's scoring tries willy-nilly at the moment. I think Burton's a smoky for New South Wales. I think he's back to form. And you're dead right. They've got their good players playing some good football, and they put Newcastle to the sword. So Knights were terrible. You know, Kalen Ponga going down with an injury. They seem to have lost everything once he went down. And there must be questions being asked up there in the Hunter Valley about the coaching and what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Well, this Etherington versus Marnie thing that he's just copped a week for, that's just silly. I mean,
it's a sign. It's a sign of what's going on outside of ours. You know what I mean? Like when you've got like Etherington is a hothead anyway. You know, remember that from him being here at the Warriors. He's a former Bulldogs player. You know, Marnie's he's a hooker with a big waha. You know what I mean? Big mouth. So he's obviously had a chip at him. He hasn't liked it. They've thrown a couple of handbags to the dozen. And it is just, what it shows you is that there's something not quite right with Newcastle at the moment. And look, we've been talking about this for years. He's gone through 4 half pairings already this year, O'Brien. I think the questions now have to start to be asked whether or not he's the right man to get him across the line.
We can't cover every game, ladies and gentlemen. We'll certainly be talking about the Wars big time because, you know, that's 2 matches in a row that haven't been convincing at all. But if you want to talk about unconvincing, you look at this Parramatta side, 44 points shipped against the Dolphins. Again, am I getting this wrong? Should we be talking more about the Dolphins than about the Parramatta side that didn't do it?
I think Parramatta deserve to be in the conversation at the moment, or whether or not they're really contenders.
But why do we say this every week, mate? Because we look at their squad on paper, don't we?
Yeah, and dead right. And again, you look at the way that Cartwright started the year now. There's a reason why Cartwright isn't playing at Penrith, and then he's been shifted, just down the motorway to Parra out west. There's when Mitchell Moses isn't in the side yet, they go and get a win last week, and then you think, oh, here they go. They've got the players on paper to go out there and absolutely towel someone up, and even had me convinced that they'd go and put 40 past the Dolphins, and then all of a sudden at 10-4, you're going, man, you guys, you're sneaking it here at 10-4. You're not looking that good, and come out after half time, and the Dolphins on every set of 6 score a try, and it's just like, where is the heart in that team? You know, you listen to Dylan Brown talking after the game, it's just not good enough. That's always a worrying sign, Marty, when your halfback says that's just not good enough, because he knows himself when he says that he didn't play that well as well. And when you start hearing those type of comments, they're in big trouble.
Dolphins, though, 44 points, and you look at them, and I know that, the first few weeks here, am I saying, oh, they've only beaten such. They got 4 wins out of 6, mate. They're sitting in 3rd spot at the moment. They started off real well last year, and then they fell away when it came to origin and injuries and things. Are we seeing the same this year?
Look, I think what you're seeing is an effort from the Dolphins second year around, and a number of players playing, a little bit like the Warriors did last year, out of their skins, week in, week out. The thing with the Dolphins, no Wayne Bennett, they had no Fletcher, no Farnsworth, and no Fido, and yet they had players come in, and a coach who's meant to be getting the job next year come in and turn a 40-point game over who was meant to be the Parramatta Eels, who were going to come up there and towel them up. And I think that says a lot about what they've created at the Dolphins, given that this competition this year is so jumpy. You have a look at this weekend's football. There would have been a lot of people on their picks not get the team.
Costo got 7 out of 8. The only one he got wrong was the Warriors.
Yeah, but the thing with Costo is that he picks those teams every week. So although he got 7 out of 8 this week, last week he got 1 out of 8. Because he's picking those underdogs all the time. This competition at the moment is actually saying you don't know if there is a clear and standout. Like, I guarantee in the last 3 years there was Penrith and the Broncos, who were the dead set standouts.
In Melbourne, yeah.
In Melbourne. But this year, you got to look at that 8 and you go, well, mate, there's a dead set fight on here to make the 8. And I mean that across the board. Now, if teams keep losing, and you have a look at the ladder, and I said this to you last week with the Warriors in that 1 point, you've got to be really careful that the teams underneath them don't win. I think most of them won.
I'll get onto that later in just a second. The Sharks won 5 games. Wars, Dogs, Raiders, Rabbits, and then they put 40 on the Cowboys, who lost to the Eels last week.
Well, they had one more chance, the Cowboys, and Todd Payton must be really worried because they have looked like they're back from a pretty disastrous season in 2023. But Matty John said to us last week, the only problem that they got, the Cowboys, is they can't stop people scoring points against them, and the Sharks go out and put 42 points past them. They can't win a competition with a leaky defence like that.
All right, that table, running it down. Sharks, Storm, Dolphins, Panthers, Eagles, Broncos, Raiders, Cowboys. There's your top 8. You tell me what teams out of that top 8 are not going to be in the 8?
You'd have to say that the Cowboys have to. I don't think defensively the Cowboys are up to it yet. They're going to have to make some massive changes come the back end of the year. But you've got to say that possibly could be the 8, the way that it ends up.
Yeah, looking. So then you've got below that the Dragons, Warriors, Roosters, Dogs, and I would say the Eels. You still got 6 teams that want to be in that 8 that have a legitimate argument that they should or could, right?
And I think they are the teams, the way that the competition at the moment, that will be fighting it out for the 8. I think it's going to come right down to the end of the season where there's a number of teams that will be in and out. I remember, if you remember this, Marty, back in 2003 when we ended up with a premiership on the last game of the season, we were sitting 3rd, I think, and we needed every result in that weekend. We're playing the West Tigers, remember, here at Mount Smart. And it's coming across, there was one game played at the same time as us, it's coming across that the game was going our way and we were actually going to be minor premiers. And I think that's what this season's about. You're going to get teams that aren't in with a shout on the last week and are going to sneak in because of results. Because that's what's happening with the comp at the moment.
You don't know Jack.
I'm going to go to Parramatta Eels, who play on Friday night at 13 plus up against the struggling Dolphins team. Brian Paul is the try scorer at $1.80 up against the West Tigers.
On the other wing, scored 2.
Yeah, TK will be back on Thursday with more hot tips. Yes, you hold your breath, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, superb!
That's about
The Waz.
It's about, you've got to lose them to get hooked to get it back.
Warriors, that's 2 in a row, Tony, where the team hasn't played that well. We were excellent versus Souths. We've fallen away in the last couple of weeks. Should have lost to Manly because they were 8 points up with 63 seconds. Didn't look convincing. And then again against St. George. Started off like a rocket and have started off like a rocket in just about every single game, including the Sharks in the opening game of the season. Then when the points haven't been accumulated, we're not up 20-0, 24-0 or something, and the other team's still got a sniff. To me, I look for patterns, and I'm looking at a pattern which I think has emerged so far over maybe 5 or 6 of the 7 games.
Yeah, well, they've got away with a couple, haven't they? You've got to say that. They've hung in there, and they've found ways to win football games. And it looked like they found another way to win this one down in Wollongong. In the first 20 minutes, you thought they'd blow the St. George Dragons off the pitch, but they just couldn't get over the try line. And as the game wore on, when I was watching the game, Marty, when I text you, I saw Flanagan, the coach, the old coach, come out, and he was playing zigzags down that left edge against Sean Johnson and making him tackle.
Okay, so explain that to us. What's a zigzag?
A zigzag set is where you come to the middle, then you go back to the blind. You come to the middle, go back to the blind, come to the middle, kick down that left edge. And as the game wore on through a zigzag sets and they got behind Ben Hunt's kick, they started to really strangle the back 5. So the defence on Chancellor Klogstad was really good. Then they started getting stuck into the wingers. And then Roger, when he was coming across, he wasn't so effective, as was the other centre. And it just started slowly strangling them out of the game. And they got that confident that in the end, I thought that they bullied them. I thought that the middle bullied our side, which you never see. And they just lost their way a little bit. And, I think they'd be looking in the changing rooms thinking, man, we just got taught a lesson down here in Wollongong. It is a hard trip. You've got to travel into Sydney and jump on a bus, head down the coast to Wollongong, get ready to play. And it's a pretty tough game when you go down there to play. But you would have thought if they could have got a couple of tries up in that first 20, they could have possibly kicked on. But what Shane Flanagan's done with the side is just given them some belief. That guy that's playing on that right, he played right centre on the wing, Lomax, but he's played on the right wing the week before. To just go over the top of a player like that.
Yeah, that's just desire and want, isn't it? That's what that is.
It's such a difference. So when you're getting into that position, comes out after half-time, scores that try straight away just by, lifting his energy levels up again, and they just didn't look like they were going to get caught. And so there's a little bit of an issue.
There's also some really dumb mistakes. I mean, Roger made one, and is that just cumulative because basically the team's losing and people are trying too hard? I mean, I just think that there is a danger of actually micro-analysing it to the nth degree, isn't there? And can we write it off? I suppose long-winded question. Were the St. George that good or the Warriors that bad? And if the Warriors were that bad, do you blip it and go, okay?
No, look, I don't think you can write it off in this competition because if you don't show up and perform, what we're seeing at the moment is from 1 to probably 12, 1 to 12 at the moment, are going to beat you. That's how the competition's going, and we saw that on the weekend. You picked all your teams that you thought were going to win, and they got beaten by the teams that you thought wouldn't be able to get a 2 points against them. So I think you've got to be a little bit worried that the competition at the moment, week in, week out, if you're not showing up and playing for 80 minutes, you're going to get your pants pulled down, as the Warriors did against St. George. Talking about the Roger incident, like touching the ball after the dropout, okay, is not more of a brain explosion, but just, Roger's been away from the game for 3 years, and the ball's bounced up, and he hasn't seen the way that it's actually going to go back over the 10-metre line when he reaches out and picks the football up. It's not a brain explosion. It's just he's been out of the game for a while.
So the natural instinct didn't kick in.
Look, it's one of those things. There's a couple of parts of the game that there's a reason why Roger can step into the game and play first grade straight away. But there's parts of the game that he does, after 3 years, there's things that you forget.
Sure.
And he would have just forgot, the ball actually can bounce inside the 8 and it could roll back into the 10.
See, I didn't know that rule. I know it. I mean, and so he obviously does know the rule, but at the time he just The concerning part for me was Sean blowing up at him. So at that stage of the game, look, I still don't think they were in the game, but you don't blow up at your senior player who's putting effort in like Roger has over the first 7-8 weeks, okay? That's more of a conversation you have with him and probably say to him, and Roger probably went, oh, that's right, I knew that rule, But you don't sort of chew him out and make him feel already as bad as what he's feeling, because as soon as it happened, Roger knew. He went, oh, that's right, I know that. But I don't think it was Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, that mistake wasn't the costing of that game. Is the team a bit one-dimensional at the moment, or is it more overstructured? Are teams just for finding out that the Warriors are going to be doing this, followed by this, followed by this, and so they know if they can soak up that ferocious first 10, first 15, which has been a pattern every game. The Warriors have started off like a rocket. You well remember, like I do, like all fans do, that we always used to be on our heels for the first 20 minutes, and why do we start so flat? We start the opposite these days, but a team's kind of learning that if they just absorb that, we run out a little bit of puff then.
Look, I think if you're looking at the coaches, so their defensive pattern now is a Penrith defensive pattern. That's what Webster's brought to them. Okay, so they're getting up in and around, they're compressing the line, pushing really hard from the inside and making the defences exactly like how Penrith defend and how Penrith's defences have worked so well for the last 3 years. The problem is that you've got Flanagan, who's been there and won a grand final, knows how to beat teams, works out systems pretty well, and puts in place an offensive effort that possibly can break your defensive line down. I just think you've got to work harder in those areas for those little percentages so that you can get through those tight periods and really blow teams away, because that's what Penrith and Brisbane used to do. So strangular defensively and then really put the acid on you offensively. If you have a look at what we're doing, it's not that we're starting faster. We're actually defending really, really well in that first 20 minutes, but we're just not finishing it. And we're not getting over the try line.
Do you think that the Warriors game, when it works, is just so awesome to watch, and the short ball, which I think a lot of other teams are actually into, they're copying. I don't know the bloody word. They're copying these days. But if that short ball isn't timed exactly right, if the pass is just slightly off, and we saw it against Manly that a couple were on the hip and things like that, that timing's just out. Are we almost putting too much on trying to be too perfect at times?
Oh, the flow has to be right. I think the confidence, you've seen throughout the competition, there's confidence from players that you didn't think would throw those balls, or throw those passes in the line. Jazz Tavaga scoring that try last week, it's sort of, there's things that are happening in the competition at the moment that it's at a different level. But if you don't get your flow right, and defensive lines are working so hard, and the referees, and you've got your substitutes now, they get your subs right, and players they're not breathing as hard as they should be, so they're coming on really fresh and being able to make all these decisions. Then you're not going to score those tries. Defensive teams have worked too hard now to make that happen. So when you see the big blowout scores, those teams have got some flow on, and basically the momentum, and this is what the coaches have been talking about. This is what Ricky was talking about last week. Now, if you go into that ruck and you cheat and you get your hands on the ball, now I thought they hung on a little bit too much, St. George on the weekend, and you could have got a couple of sets of 6. But again, we talked about interpretation. You have a different referee. Another referee would have called 6 again, sure, 4 or 5 different times, But you take all that into context, and all of a sudden the referees let those go, you get back on side, you do it again in a second tackle, then all of a sudden you're not getting a roll on all that momentum going, and it then becomes a really hard day at the office, and it became that for the Warriors on Saturday night.
Got a Big Moan Monday happening very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. One question before we go to it, though. Is there a plan B? If Sean is not absolutely playing at the level that we now expect him to, is there a sufficient plan B going on with the Warriors?
Well, the Fisher-Harris conversation, I can't wait to talk to Cam about this. I think it's a fantastic signing. Don't get me wrong. But what people aren't talking about is he's still haven't fixed up the number 7 problem. The number 7 problem is he's 35 years of age. And yes, he may run around for another couple of years. And Fisher-Harris may have got him excited to sign on for another year. But he's a injury away from being out of a competition for a while. And let's look at the context of this competition. I think if you lose Sean Johnson at the moment, the Warriors will struggle to win some football games, because teams will just absolutely go over the top of them if they don't compete like they do with Sean Johnson in your side. So for me, I love the Fish signing. I think it's fantastic. But when I saw it, I thought, well, that's fantastic, but you're spending $1 million on a front row, so it's like for like. You can add in for Fanua Blake, and it is like for like, because Fanua Blake's, I think, up there with Fish in the best front row in the competition.
Yeah, they'll be in the best 5. There's no question about it, right?
But are you going to say the same when they lose Sean Johnson? So, you know, if you lose Sean Johnson, who's playing like a Daily M halfback at the moment, so would you put Fish and Adam Fanua Blake in the top 3? Are they going to sign a top 3 halfback? If they don't, are the Warriors any better with Fish in the team? That's what people should be asking.
Moan. I'm moaning sick all the time. Oh, it's Monday. I got a bone on, all right. Don't tell me how to support my team. Bunch of cheerleading bandwagon jumpers. The flack and the fallout from Friday night and the Warriors' awful loss to St George continued all weekend after I dared to criticise the team and the performance. Easily the worst under Webby's so far mostly brilliant tenure. But that's what a true fan is about. Reality. Yes, I love my team, and yes, I will criticise my team and dog my team when they deserve it, like they did after the St George loss. The Warriors aren't some sporting sacred cow. Praise be when praise due, sure, but also truth needs to be told when team plays poop. Jog on, you fly-by-night slob gobblers. Take your cheerleading somewhere else. Run off back to the Game of Thrones or the latest Swifty album, wherever your 30-second attention span dick pic Instagram selves were before you happened to stumble upon the Warriors. True fans were here long ago, and true fans will still be here long after you all leave. And a true fan also tells the truth, which is all I've been doing after Friday night. That loss was like watching us 2 years ago when Up the Waz was called Let's Gone. So all you cheerleaders need to get lost and jog on. What a moan. In the end, I'm moaning about people moaning about me moaning, which makes about as much sense as the way the Warriors played versus the Dragons.
Devlin.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
The platform.
3:28, this is the Rugby League Hour. Martin, Devlin and Tony Kemp. We'll take a little break. We'll come back. And Cameron George, the Warriors CEO, is going to join us. Still to come, we've got the Effluix Cleanup Award. Tony's got his top 5. And we go head-to-head debating 6 separate sporting topics. But the Warriors CEO joins us next. It's time.
He's a ledge.
What an intro for the Warriors CEO. Cameron George joins us. Welcome back, Cameron.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hey, Cam, is Fisher-Harris off the back of the signing the biggest signing that the Warriors have ever made, you reckon?
Yeah, I think, there's been any number of great signings at different times for different reasons that have added great value, but I think if I reflect on the whole 30 years of our footy club, to have the national captain wanting to come home and leaving a contract early for the said reasons of being back with his family and being back in New Zealand to get back to the game, I think it's up there with one of our biggest ones, if not the biggest one. And he's a special human, and he's going to bring special leadership qualities to our footy club, which we're looking forward to having next year.
Cameron, how did you keep that so quiet? Everything leaks in league. How was it hush hush?
Oh, well, we just don't talk to the media for a couple of days, mate. It's really important, but the thing is, it's out of respect. This wasn't, a long drawn out process. So we just got on with the job and we kept it
To ourselves, not for being disrespectful to the media, but more respectful to the club we're dealing with, and also James and his family. I think that's crucial. So that's where it is.
Do you have any contingencies, Cam? Is there still another spot that you're working on, or we're looking at another surprise signing over the coming months?
Mate, we've still got a couple of spots, but yeah, again, just taking a deep breath and working out what happens, and what happens with a couple of our players, and Shawnee's still deciding what he does for next year, and those sort of decisions will naturally take up a spot. So, we're in a really good position. Stability in our roster. James coming in, adding to, the absence of ads leaving. So, we're in a good spot. Got good kids coming through. They're all learning, in difficult times right now, with a few injuries, but they'll be all better for it next year.
Cameron, how does the compassionate grounds work when you're talking to players who have signed these long-term deals and you can get them across the line? Is there any, because there's lots of talk about the integrity unit, and when you're talking to players who are still on contract, can you explain to the listeners how that works?
Yeah, look, you can't talk to a player outside of the 12 months leading into the conclusion of a current contract. So, if a player's coming off the end of 2025, we can't speak to them until after 1 November. However, when a player approaches their current club and wishes to move or relocate or have a change of contract conditions due to compassionate grounds,
it's a loophole.
That's something that you can... you consider that on its merits, and we've had some that we've declined in the past, and we've had some that we've obviously well known that we've accepted and said, okay, well that's life, we move on. As long as you get permission from the club, you can talk to them. And on this occasion, everyone was granted the permission, and their compassionate grounds are understood by his existing club, and we were the only option in New Zealand, so that made the whole discussion a lot easier. Where conversely, going back to Australia, if it's Sydney or Brisbane, they might have 7 or 8 clubs chasing players, so then it becomes a drawn out process.
Are you able to shed any light at all on Jet Cleary? A lot of speculation at the moment about whether he's going to be the guy to replace Sean in 2025.
Not really. I see that you put it out there the other day.
Yeah, like everybody.
So at the end of the day,
he looked good in the Warriors jersey too, Cam, didn't he, in the picture?
Yeah, he did. Look, mate, there's he's considering his options in the future, but that's about where it's at right now. So we'll wait and see what happens in the next couple of weeks, and we'll just get through this week and we'll talk about the future with players next week.
Cameron, how did the players take it when you announced Fisher Harris? Was there, you would have thought, given the context of the game on the weekend and the naming of Fisher Harris as a signing that he was, that they would have come out and put in a bit of an effort. Did it take a bit out of the players, do you think?
May have. Kempy, look, all those question marks are there, but look, at the end of the day, we were flat and we just didn't get the job done. So the best part about this week, we've got a special occasion to acknowledge on Anzac Day in front of our full house. So we've just got to turn it around and get on with it. That aside, the question was how the players take it. Mate, they were, all the players were, felt really happy that, the club's been able to secure someone of Fisher's, calibre and leadership. And, we are replacing our big fella in ads, and he's doing a great job as well. So I think there was a lot of relief there when they worked out we'd found a pretty good one to replace Adam with.
Why aren't you keen to go up to Vegas, or are you keen, but just not for next year?
No, we've applied. Never said we weren't keen anywhere. We've applied. What I probably think is, I don't know whether the NRL want to use us up in year 2. Why I say that is because we're going to bring to the table a whole different country and different market. And whether they want that in year 2 while it's still buzzing, or they want to use us later on in the term to try and bring new market, new people to Las Vegas. So, mate, if it's next year, it's next year. Look, we're a part of the whole growth thing, and we want to be a part of it. Every club has to be, but yeah, whether they want to pull the trigger on bringing all of New Zealand up there next year or wait till it might just taper off a little bit in years 3 or 4, I'm not quite sure.
A couple of quick questions before we let you go. Thank you so much for your time as always, Cameron. When it's going well, when you're selling out every week, how do you look back at a couple of years ago at the worst kinds of times? Do you spend any time thinking about that and reflecting, on what you've done since then and thinking, wow, okay, how easy is it now compared to then?
No, we don't look back, mate. It's happened. It is what it is. I think we got a lot of good out of it through those challenging times. We've learned a hell of a lot, but you just got to move on. The further I get away from it, the better I feel. But there's still some reminders. You always get asked a lot of questions, but we just move on, mate. And we're very excited about the future of our pathways, our kids into the grand final this week, and we're very positive.
Yeah, that was brilliant. The under-16s people, if you didn't know, superb result that was. Yeah.
What about the new bar, Cam? Come on, tell us when the opening is. And are we getting a VIP?
I'll tell you.
We're getting a VIP invite?
Yes, you'll get one. I was only there this morning having some discussions around the design. We're hopeful in September that we can get there and open it up, and it's coming along well. And it's just another revenue option for us, and that's what we're trying to achieve out of it. So we're not wholly and solely reliant on rugby league and the NRL. So looking forward to that opportunity opening up.
Anzac Day, finally, you mentioned that. Does it become a bit of a must-win now, this game? Or is it too early in the season to say that?
No, we want to win every game. We know that's easier said than done, but it's not a must-win game, but we want to see a response from our boys, absolutely. And I know they do too, and I know Webby does. So it's not a must-win game, but it's something we take Anzac Day very seriously. Finally got it back in New Zealand where we deserve to have the game. And for our crowd to fill up the stadium, it's a special occasion that we want to have a special performance. So looking forward to it.
Oh, you're a good man for joining us, mate. Appreciate you, Cameron.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Cheers, Kim. Head-to-head time.
Head-to-head.
Oh, this is where I came in. Here we go. I love this part of the show, ladies and gentlemen.
7-0?
This is where Devlin holds serve. It's 6-love. It's just so easy. I mean, if you're going to put a bet on anything, TK, you put a bet on this. We got 30 seconds arguing for or against 6 different topics du jour. Kicking it off. Roger needs to move out of the centres and back to fullback, yay or nay?
Mate, you're not listening to the coach. Seriously. He's pretty black and white, even though he's a redhead, that man, Mr. Webster, and he will not move Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in your favoured position of fullback when Nickel Clockstead's going back there and running for 340 metres a game. So you can just put that on a bed.
Is it gone, is it?
It's gone. The only reason he's going to get back there if Clockstead breaks 2 legs.
Yeah, get real, Marty. People have moved on. Come on.
Well, apart from the guy that's sitting opposite me who's been harping on about it every bloody week, mate, since we've been doing this podcast.
I've moved on.
Chance Nickel Clockstar, do you think that, I'm going to ask you a question instead of arguing because I think he should stay in the centres, but do you think that Nickel Clockstar is doing too much on attack and that is sapping his energy in defence?
I think coaches are working out how to stop the Warriors. And if they can stop the back 5, they're going to do they've got to travel so far back, the forwards, they just tire them out. And I don't think people are actually recognising that.
I won that one because I said that he should stay at centres right from the very bloody start, all right?
So you're executioner as well as judge.
The whole thing, mate.
Yeah.
8 games into the season, this is a must-win for the Warriors at home against the Titans.
I think it is. I think every game at home the Warriors have to win in this competition at the moment because if you don't get those games back-to-back, especially after losing that 1 point against Manly, they can find themselves back down below 10th position where they find themselves at the moment. So that 1 point is going to either be a benefit to them or definitely be a hindrance come the back end of the season. When you get games like this up against a side that hasn't won a game yet, you don't want to be their first game to lose against them, but especially Anzac Day, big game, this is a must-win and they have to get the 2 points.
Well, I'll argue against it and say it's not a must-win only because it's only the 8th game of the season, but you don't want to be the first team that loses to a team that hasn't won a game all season, and that's the Titans. And I think, as I said earlier, I look for patterns. And the Manly game was a game that should have been lost.
I had a good pattern going on the weekend, 3 in a row.
And then obviously getting beaten by St George. And so the Warriors, as Cameron said to us, they got to turn it around. We expect a big performance. The crowd expects a big performance. It's just capitalising on that start. Get 15 to 20 up, the whole game changes. So I'm not arguing that it's not a must-win because of the state of the season, but I'm saying a win would be damn good, would it not? Brisbane. Penrith and Melbourne are all lurking. These three sides still remain the biggest dangers in the comp to everybody, yes or no?
Yeah, top three, definitely in the top four, those three sides. I think Brisbane on the weekend, when they come back, they're the side that really, if they continue to keep that momentum, that speed up, they're going to scare so many other sides. Penrith have still got Cleary coming back, so they're going to get better. But Melbourne have gone to another level. Experience is really key, and experience in the spine is really key. And the Melbourne Storm have probably, arguably at the moment, the best spine in the competition in the first 7 rounds.
Until it comes to finals time, it's difficult to argue against those three teams, isn't it? Because they have proven it. But I still look at
Dolphins
teams like the Sharks, who've won 5 games, and I'm still looking at Manly, who have won 4 games and they've drawn 1, and that should be 5 wins as well for them. So I think that it's easy to point at this time the origin is going to take its toll on those sides. We've already seen with teams like Brisbane, if they lose 1 or 2 key players, how difficult it is for them to win. So they've all got to keep their squads fit. And also Penrith were pretty damn average against West Tigers, but they still won. Mind you, they've won 3 in a row, so who the hell is anyone to say other than...
Look at that ladder, Marty. You've got the Warriors in 10th on 7. We've got 4 teams below them on 6.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Your Knights with Ponga half injured aren't going to win any game at all until he gets fit.
I have to agree. I think Kalen Ponga is the Knights at the moment, and they've relied on it for too long now, whereas they shouldn't be worrying about building a team around Kalen Ponga with average players, because they're just filling the spots in key positions with average players. You have a look at what the Warriors have done post-COVID. They've brought Sean back into good form, but they've supported him with the likes of Toru Harris. They've just announced Fisher Harris. They bought Whanua Blake. They bought over here Nua Kore. They're quality, and that's what the Knights need.
Having said that, though, surely it's not about one player, Tony, as good as he might be. I mean, every single team is going to be able to... If you take out Reynolds out of Britain, does that mean the whole team's stuff? Because that means there's squad stuff, if that's the case. If you take Nathan out of Penrith...
Penrith won't win the comp if Nathan isn't in it.
Those guys are that special.
100%.
Well, in that case, Kalen Ponga, get the hell out of Newcastle then, because your team's rubbish, mate.
Oh, I thought he would have gone a long time ago.
Wouldn't he come here?
And replace who? Roger or Noel Glogstead?
I don't know, mate. I'd like to see him get his hands on the ball and play 6, mate. That's where I'd like to see him playing at the moment. Manly are definitely going to make the 8. The Eels won't.
You got to agree with that. I'm not going to argue against that, mate. The Eels are garbage. Seriously. Arthur's the next bloke to get sacked. Guarantee it.
Good Lord.
Yep. And
you said that about Demetrio and he hasn't gone yet.
Well, Demetrio's, they're in meetings right now. All right, so Demetrio might be gone by the weekend.
That's why he's not answering my calls yet, Jason.
But Arthur has to be the next one who's gone. Mate, the performance they put up against a depleted Dolphins side who didn't even have Wayne Bennett sitting in the changing room is honestly embarrassing.
See, this is where Devlin just holds serve. Not only that, I pound aces down at 200. I hit them on the centre line, I hit them out. Wide to your backhand, I hit them out wide to your forehand. The whole point is that 7 games have been played. How can you count any team out? You looked at your Newcastle Knights side that went on a roll last year and won 9 or 10 games. Do you forget that?
Eels aren't going to do that.
Why aren't they going to do that?
Because
they don't play every game in Darwin, mate, do they?
Anyone in the bottom 4, if anyone is going to do that, it'll be the Rabbits.
Oh, please, you're still on that train, are you? Latrell jumped off after round 1, mate. He's not even on it.
I'm telling you, if they're going to go on a roll, it'll be the Rabbits. It definitely won't be the Eels. They're too slippery.
This year could be the year of the Shark.
Oh, that is a big call, Marty. I'm going to say no.
No?
Not a chance.
No.
Not a chance up against the teams below them at the moment.
Year, mate.
Well, they've got to get past the Panthers and the Broncos. I don't think they can do that. I think they'll crumble under that. But then you've got these other teams lurking around like the Storm, the Sea Eagles, the Warriors and the Canberra Raiders. I think they're going to be too tough for them. I think they've got a soft underbelly, the Sharks. And Craig Fitzgibbon, although he's a very, very good coach, I don't think he's fixed that over the last 4 months.
Well, you see, I think that, you gob all over Flano and St. George, and yet for some reason you look at a team that's won 5 games out of 6, and the only game they've lost is to the Tigers, which is an aberration, and you sit there and you diss them.
Let's look at that in another 6 weeks.
Just replace Flano's team with that team,
Can you clip
mate.
this part?
Just replace that with that,
6 weeks.
Are the Warriors going to make the 8?
Yes.
They still are.
Warriors are still going to make the 8.
Absolutely confident?
They're going to make the 8, even though they've lost that point.
Online, the Warriorholic joins us saying, "G'day, mate, how are you?"
Oh, I'm still here. I'm still with you.
Well, okay, and you're
Can you keep up?
And after that result on the weekend and that performance on the weekend, I mean, how long do you linger in disappointment land before you actually pick yourself up again and think we've got another game in a few days?
Normally a lot longer, but to our Harold Batts boys and Cup boys who got it done. It's sort of 2 out of 3, gave me something to get excited about over the weekend. But I'm glad it's a Thursday game because we need that fast turnaround. The pressure of that.
Yeah.
We were outdone in every aspect.
Thank you for saying it, Zane. Thank you for being honest about it, mate.
And
We were.
everyone needs a bloke like you, Zane, who just, can go back and look at those reserve graders and pick themselves back up. But seriously, if you look at the Warriors over the previous 4 weeks, been pretty lucky to get a couple of points.
Mate, we've lost so much experience in that bench, mate. I'm not surprised because we've got our props playing at 70-odd minutes a game, running 200-odd metres, and those, Molo and the likes, they only played about 30 minutes and they're already running for 100. So we're gassing our experienced players, mate, and it's not going to get better over the next 6 weeks because who do we bring in?
If Sean Johnson is not playing to a level that we have come to expect over the last season or not, who's the guy that needs to be seizing control of the team? Because is there a plan B? I'm not seeing a plan B in the last 2 games.
Well, I think we found that it's been really even more Sean Johnson-centric this year because he's playing both sides, and I feel like he's getting a little bit in the way and not giving Tamati Martin a chance to express himself. We saw him play against South. He was outstanding. So I'd like to know what the logic is behind not letting him ball play a bit on the right-hand side, left-hand side there.
Was this the worst game you saw Egan play?
I think that's a reflection of it when your fullback's getting run over like that. That happens, right? I thought Jaden Sewer was huge, getting their momentum, and was it Celia, the other prop? I think Egan, it's a reflection on what we saw of him during COVID. Kempy, when you and I questioned whether he was the man on the back foot, it's a difficult position, right?
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in when you're fighting 4 weeks out from a New South Wales jersey, being talked about the week before as the top 3 hookers, and then going out and missing those key tackles in the middle. I'm pretty sure Maguire would have been watching that. What changes would you make, Zane? Like if it was you this week and you had a full contingent, what changes do you think the Warriors need to come up with?
Well, I'm praying Dylan Walker's back. We've got to get some experience on that bench, and I'm definitely looking at Zion Maiu. I think Jacob Laban, he's doing a good job, but he's definitely not a middle, and that's where we're lacking that bit of power. And I thought Zion, he only played about 20 or 30 minutes in Cup the weekend, but he's impactful. He runs bloody hard, so I'd be looking to bring him in.
Appreciate your time as always, my boy. Thank you so much, Dave.
Influx Cleanup Award.
Now, let's get this right again for the sake of our very generous sponsors, Tony. This is where we have the gunk. We're turning it into the gold. There was rubbish. We are taking that trash and we're greening it up and we're going to sell it on the top table afterwards. So who does it go to?
Oh, so there's so many this week, Marty, and it was really hard to pick a team out that deserved the gold, but I had to give it to the Dolphins. One, they gunked it all over me because I'd picked the Eels to go out there and absolutely smash them. But you've got a coach who's gone away for some reason. All his players have decided that they're injured, and they show up in the heat of Darwin and turn up a performance like that against the Parramatta Eels. Absolute gold, mate. They just went out there and put everyone to bed. And for me, not only did they put them to bed, but they actually said to me, mate, they're a chance. They're an actual chance of making the 8.
So this is a team that has got the 3 losses they've had have been hideous, Tony. They've been absolutely pantsed in all 3 losses, yet they've won 4. They're the Jekyll and Hyde team, aren't they?
But that's the comp. That's what I'm saying, Marty. That's the comp. If you look at the Warriors here, 3-1-3. It's the year where you're going to get these teams that show up in the bottom half of the 8, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8, and go, how did you make it? That's what's going to happen. How'd you go make it? So anyone who's a supporter out there in New Zealand this year of any of those teams out there at the moment, including the Titans, because the Titans are going to get a couple of wins here, if you have a look between 17 here and the 8, there's 6 points.
Yeah, well, that's only because 7 games have been played.
And they've got an overlap here.
TK's Top 5.
All right, then, the top 5 as we see them at the moment. The Sharks have won 5, they've lost 1. They're in top spot. The Storm, exactly the same record. It's just a points differential. 1-5, lost 1. They're in second. Dolphins are in third. Panthers are in 4. And the Sea Eagles, Manly, are in 5.
Number 5.
I'm going to give it to the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are going to... They'll be there or thereabouts, okay? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and they'll be fighting out the back end of the season. I think with that effort on the weekend, some fairy tale finishes for the Bromwich brothers, Kafusi's getting on, and those young blokes, the Fledgers, the Farnsworths, and even Katoa at halfback, I thought he played a better game this week. Are probably going to get them across the line this year. They may still play fine finals football. But the Dolphins, I think they're just getting...
One quick comment
better and
on
better.
that. When it's a new franchise and you're talking about culture and you're talking about playing for something, a jersey or your mates, all of that kind of stuff, how difficult is that? Because I thought that turnaround win for them, they could have easily gone up to Darwin and just pantsed up, right? They could have, but they didn't.
Well,
so that says a lot, doesn't it?
It does for the players that they put in that side who are second stringers.
Right.
You know, and they've gone out and they've absolutely tailed up the Parramatta side. So, you know, one thing that we've been saying all along, they just haven't got the depth. Well, guess what? They were a second string side that went up there and beat them by 30.
Yes, what does it say about the Eels side that sat there and just let it happen?
Number 4.
Well, mate, do I go with the Panthers on this one? Do I still
At
keep them in there?
4?
At 4?
They've just won 3 titles in a row, mate.
Yeah, no, I think the Panthers are sneaking in there at the moment. The sooner Nathan Cleary gets back for them, the better. Otherwise, I think they're going to fall out of the 8.
I'm sorry, they're what?
Yeah.
All right.
3.
I'm going to go the Broncos. I think the Broncos the back. I'm not going to get... I was going to actually give Lockie... I was going to give the Broncos a top spot. That was the most impressive game of the weekend.
Well, that's a Raiders side. They were back-to-back wins, mate. I know they were both at
That's
home.
the most... and the Raiders have beaten people up.
Yeah.
You know, so you get a bunch of kids running around them. You know what? You know, and here's a secret to anyone who's listening out there and you want to talk to your kid and your boy comes up to you and says, Dad, I'm getting bullied in the playground. Tell him to run as fast as he can. Because a bully can never catch a fast kid. And that's what the Broncos did to the
How good was Reece Walsh, mate? He's the guy. The way he hits that line at a pace that no other player in the comp does at the moment.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. And if they can keep that up, they're the team to beat. Still in the
Number 2.
Well, I'm going to go the Sharks. I'm going to hang the Sharks up here. Even though they're sitting top, they still don't make that number 1 spot for me.
They've beaten Waz, they've beaten Dogs, they've beaten Raiders, they've beaten Rabbits, they've beaten Cowboys. Is that an easy draw? There's no such thing. So shut up about that. They've lost to the Tigers. They've won 5 games, right?
Yeah. I'll go. I actually thought you were going to answer that question and answer it right. That has been an easy run to the top. The best thing about the Sharks is you take that. You take those 12 points.
Of course you do, mate.
Yep, you take those 12 points because they're going to give up in the next 6 weeks probably another 12 and you'll see them down. Guess who with?
Well, last
the
second.
Panthers.
All right, okay.
Number 1.
Oh, it's the Storm.
Has to be.
It's Bellamy's Storm. They've been the most impressive team so far this year.
Can I run these results by you? Penrith 8-0.
Yep.
The Warriors 30-26. They lost to your mob, the Knights, 14-12.
Don't know how that happened.
They beat the Broncos by 2, 34-32. They beat the Dogs 16-14 with a try in the last few minutes. They beat the Roosters 18-12. And again, it was a game when I was watching the game, I was thinking they could easily lose this game, but they didn't.
They didn't. And Robinson's going on like a pork chop about, you know, the referees have got this wrong. And, man, they didn't lose the game on that one call. You got beaten by a better team, you know. And the Storm have been doing that to everyone for the first 7 weeks. I think they're building, out of every team, you know, building wins that tight gives you resilience. They're going to open up soon. And who are they playing this week, Marty? That'd be the team I'd be backing to get plenty of points this week.
Melbourne Storm are up against the Rabbits.
There you go.
There you go.
The man just set up the try.
That was the Rugby League Hour, brought to you by MicroBio Solutions Limited, solving environmental issues using green technologies. Visit microbio.co.nz.
It started with a Mitchell try. It